Hi, welcome to another episode of Vivid Q&A. I'm Dave, and our topic today is aquarium pumps. These questions all come to us from our friends on Facebook. Now, Stephen asks, what make of return pumps would you say runs the quietest for a 100 to 150 gallon system? Well, Stephen, without a doubt, my favorite external pump for a system that size would be the Reflow Snapper Dart hybrid pump. It comes with two different impellers. One will do 2,400 gallons an hour at 4 feet of head. The other impeller will do about 3,600 gallons an hour at 4 feet of head. It's a whisper quiet pump, very low electricity usage, and I've used them in a lot of setups in a lot of homes, and people have been very happy with them. In fact, they're way quieter than most submersible pumps out there on the market. Now, Simon asks, I have a Mag 12 on a 125 gallon system that uses PVC and has a lot of right angles. Do you recommend that I get a bigger pump because of flow lost in the right angles? Well, Simon, it is true that every time you have a 90-degree turn or a bend in the piping, it is going to reduce the flow of the pump. What it comes down to is how much water you're actually putting through the aquarium and through the overflow box. Now, something to keep in mind is the size of the drains on your aquarium and how much water flow they can handle. So a Mag 12, I think, is rated around 1,200 gallons an hour at 4 feet. When it hits elbows, it may reduce that to 600, 700, 800 gallons an hour. But you got to consider the size of the drains. A 1-inch drain usually can drain about 800 to 1,000 gallons an hour. An 1.5-inch drain, about 1,500 to 1,700 gallons an hour. And a 2-inch drain, probably around 2,000 to 2,300 gallons an hour. So you can't pump water in faster than you can drain it. Obviously, that's one limit to consider. So in terms of upgrading the pump, if your drain can easily handle it and you feel like there's not enough flow in the tank, then definitely you can upgrade. You could also consider adding a second return pump on a separate return line. So this way, if your main pump fails, you have one running for backup to keep the filter system at least circulating. Now, Jason asks, can you run an external pump vertically? Well, honestly, Jason, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it. I know that all external pumps usually are flooded suction, which means they need to be below the water line of the sump, so that gravity will force water into the inlet of the pump. If you're really have no space and you need to do it that way, you might contact the manufacturer to see what they say, but in most cases I know it's not recommended. Now, Steve asks, please explain differences between flow rate and the actual gallons per hour of a pump. Well, if you look at most pumps, they'll have a flow chart with them. Every pump, the higher it pumps, the less water is able to pump. So for a pump that might pump 300 gallons an hour at 1 foot, at 3 feet it might only pump 200 gallons an hour. At 5 feet, it might only be pumping 100 gallons an hour. Again, there's a chart and a graph on the box. And you want to consider most sumps, setups, you're pumping the water about 4 to 5 feet high. So you want to see how much water that pump is designed to pump at a head pressure of 4 or 5 feet. And then find something that's going to turn over the volume of your system at least 10 to 15 times an hour. Now, Mickey asks, is there any way to prevent calcium buildup on the impeller? Well, not really. You're going to get calcium buildup on impellers of the pumps over time, but you can take the pump apart and you can actually soak the impeller in vinegar. That'll help to remove any deposits of calcium buildup or coralline algae from the pump's impeller. Now, Dan asks, what are the best ways of keeping added pump heat out of your aquarium? Well, in our experience, most external pumps are going to add less heat into the tank than a submersible pump, because submersible pumps, obviously the entire pump is underwater and the only way for the heat to escape from the motor is back into the water. Whereas an external pump is not underwater, so it's usually going to put less heat into the water. Other than that, you obviously just need to run cooling fans and possibly a chiller on the aquarium. Now, Andrew asks, can I use 2 return pumps of different sizes, different gallons per hour? If so, how do I plumb them so they aren't pumping against each other? I have 2 returns. Well, Andrew, if you have 2 pumps, ideally you want to plumb them each into the tank via their own return line so they don't risk fighting each other. If you really have only 1 return line in the tank, you don't want to make 2, then you need to put a check valve on each pump, which will prevent the water from pumping down into the other one. But really it's not nearly as efficient of a way of doing it, so without a doubt you're best off to send each pump into the aquarium with its own separate return line. Well, guys, that's it for this episode. I appreciate you watching. Keep those questions coming on Facebook, and we'll keep the videos coming. Thanks again. Take care.